For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod driveline components under the leadership of top fuel funny car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, WFO Radio back on the air. Joe Castello back with you. Hopefully you had a great July 4th weekend. I did. What a weekend. It was so much fun. Just so much going on. Great Ferrari victory in Formula One. Carlos Sainz, that was great stuff. $1 million bracket races going on. We're going to talk a little NHRA drag racing with Alan Reinhart. He is just seconds away, getting all set up. And we're going to be good to go. A chance to comment and talk about the issues of the day. There will be an Ignition show this week. We'll get everybody up to speed on all that is happening real soon. I also want to tell you, I do this show for NHRA's YouTube channel called Attention in the Pits. We did one that I thought was kind of cool and different and out of the box. I would love for you to watch it and, more importantly, share it. If you're a fan of the Tri-5 Chevy, if you're a fan of Lucas Oil Series racing, if you're a fan of classic gas and altered wheelbases, if you're a fan of, giant kaiju, all of these things are all wrapped into one. We went and tracked down Nick and Joanne Iarussi in Ohio to see the famed and historic Godzilla 55 Chevrolet on Attention in the Pits, a first time ever where we left the pit area to go find a classic car. So go watch that and share it and check it out. It is great stuff. All right, before I go any further, we bring Reinhart on, who's got like a construction project going on down there. If you guys could see what I see, it's pretty cool. The guy is going through a lot of effort to make this show happen here today. I want to tell you about the people who make it possible for me to do this and create this show. Got some good stuff going on this week. Chris Thorne, Pro Mod winner, going to be on tomorrow. That's pre-recorded. There might be some other pre-recorded stuff as I'm going to do like 2 days of rest and recovery. But right now I got to tell you about Phillips Connect. Yeah, you never are without WFO. It's just not live. You've never seen it, that's for sure. Phillips-Connect.com. We're talking about smart trailer technology, over the road, many sensors, keeping your load safe. You can, tractor trailer parking, cargo loaded or versus empty. Like, you can know what's going on with your fleet, which is very, very important. You can keep track of where and how safe. Very important. Go to Phillips-Connect.com. Smart trailer technology. Go to the website. It is an enterprise business. So if you're in the transportation industry, you're going to definitely want to do some research and find out about Phillips-Connect.com. Total Seal piston rings. The leader in ring seal technology, TotalSeal.com. It's as simple as this. 40% of your engine's friction comes from your piston rings. That seal is so vital, getting your engine sealed up. And they have it down to, I want to call it an art, but it's a science. TotalSeal.com. And of course, we encourage you to check out that Hidden Horsepower podcast. Matt Smith episode is up, and we got a new one ready to drop on Friday. VP Racing Fuels. They had a big sale going on. Sale is over, but it doesn't change the fact that the VP lubricants are powering their drivers to #1 qualifiers in the highest heights of the NHRA. Go to vpracingfuels.com, VP lubricants, and it doesn't take a lot of information to find out that some of the best are using VP, whether it be in the Lucas Oil Series ranks or in Pro Stock with VP lubricants. Go check them out. And they've also got great stuff for your man cave too. Like if you're just looking for your race room, go to vpracingfuels.com. Check them out. FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters. I haven't dug into the 500,000 just yet. Results, like who was running FTI what, like I always do. But you can bet that FTI Transmissions and Torque Converters were well represented throughout that entire event. And whether you're building your bracket car, whether you want to go out and run the big money stuff, whether you want to be in part of the NHRA, Top Sportsman, Top Dragster, Pro Mod, or .90 Racing, FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters are heavily involved. So check them out. Go to their website. It's a Paul Lee company, and Paul doing so many great things in the driveline industry with McLeod and now FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters for the big money folks out there in the bracket racing world. Later on in the show, we'll tell you about samtech.edu, Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, and of course, Marvin Rodak and Rodak's Coffee and Grills.com. I'll even tell you how to become a Patreon and be a co-host of our Ignition podcast, which is going to be a whole lot of fun, except where we talk about one of my radio mentors passed away yesterday, Hank Goldberg, who many people may recall from his coverage of the Kentucky Derby on ESPN as an odds maker in the NFL. Hank was on Inside the NFL for many years, and he did a sports talk show in Miami, and I worked around his show, co-hosted with him a couple of times when he was on a 640 station down here, and we lost Hank yesterday. Hank was an old school character, came to my wedding, and just, losing those guys, it's really terrible, but that's something we'll be talking about on the Ignition Show as we delve into some stories of Hammer and Hank. But right now, we'll go out to Tucson, Arizona, a man who's still alive. Alan Reinhart. Oh, look at this. The laptop computer cam. This is a new view. I love it, Alan. You did everything you had to do, and you got us on the air. Good job. That's what matters most.
Well, I don't know what the hell's going on with my computer because I signed in, logged in, everything was good, and then it blipped. And I thought, well, okay, I was adjusting stuff. I must have bumped something because I used an air stick. And so I signed back in, and it blipped again. And then it went off. And so I thought, you know what, screw it, I'll just do my phone. And I did that, and it was connecting really about this. And I just went, screw it, turned the phone on.
This is great. See, this is why people tune in on WFO, because it's never the same. You just don't know what you're going to get. And this is what you're getting today. And isn't it cool?
Yeah. Reinhardt, the computer idiot that can't figure out how to get online. That's what you're getting today.
No, well, whatever. You know what? I'm excited for it, Alan. I'm excited. One of the rare weeks between races, but we're getting ready for the big Western swing. Roger Richards out there. Everybody is super excited about what's about to happen in the next 3 races. Denver, Sonoma, Seattle. These are as good as they get, back to back to back, the Western swing. If you've never been on it, you should try to go to at least one of them to fully understand. I now understand, and I'm super excited, especially to get back to Seattle.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'm going to Woodburn this weekend, though, so I've got a double divisional coming up before that. I'm really looking forward to that. That's it's a fun racetrack. It's a great family that owns it, and it's going to be a good one, especially being a double this weekend. So I've got 4 in a row kicking off this weekend, but just looking forward to getting back to work. I took 1 weekend off, took the motorcycles out. This one's making noise now, so I think it's making noise in the clutch. If it was a car, I would say it had a bad throwout bearing, but I'm going to pull the clutch out of it and see what it looks like.
Okay. No, I love it. That's it. That's what they like. They like to be worked. Don't you say they talk to you? That's what they're telling you. They're like, hey, Alan, we want you to work on us.
Well, as loud as this one is, when I'm sitting at a stoplight and I can hear something coming out of the clutch area, then something's definitely needs attention. So I don't know how I'll get it apart. I get it figured out. It's not like I'm going riding next week or the week after because I'm not going to be home. So I got plenty of time to get it taken care of. So
you're saying that Jack from Cycle Drag broke it?
No, I wish I could blame it on him, but no, it was fine when he brought it back, and it was actually fine yesterday when it took off. It just started making noise kind of in the middle of the ride, and then when we were coming back, it was really getting worse. And like I say, the bike's loud. So if I
there's that glitch again, and right as I was about to zing him with this Courtney Enders comment, I was about to just zing him, and he froze up. He froze. He got frozen.
That wasn't me, was it?
No, it was you. Yeah, you froze. You're frozen. We hear you, though. We hear you now.
Was that me?
Yes. Yeah, now you're back. Wow.
Is it still me?
Yeah, it's still you, but you're good. Now you're back. It's back to normal. Just not as crisp and clear as you were a moment ago, Alan. But let's keep going with it.
Okay, was it me? I'm blaming you because I didn't move.
The internet. There's a lot of gap between us. So Courtney Enders says, no, Alan, those are the voices in your head, the sounds that you're hearing.
No, those come in loud and clear.
Okay.
Like yesterday, one of them said, send something to Courtney for the 4th of July, and I did.
Oh, okay. See there. That's why everyone is sharp. All right. So listen, there's a couple people that have some questions. Let's get to some questions. Like Lauren wants to know, Alan, who do you think will be the next first-time NHRA Pro Class winner this season? First-time winner. Lauren has had this question queued up for the last 3 shows, and I have not gotten to it. I wanted to start with Lauren's question.
Joey Gladstone.
Wow, that's a good one, man. He's knocking at the door.
Yeah, I think that, he's got everything. Just need, maybe the one little break on Sunday or the bad luck to quit, and he would have already won 1 or 2. The thing for the bikes is, they won't run the full Western swing, so they don't have as many swings out of as some of the guys do. But I really think Joey's in a pretty good position to break through.
Joey is in a very good position to break through. And I'm going to get in on this as well. It's funny. It's like, Camry Caruso. You could say Camry Caruso is a potential first-time winner. But I don't know. I'm going to go in a slightly different direction. I'm going to go with, can I say one of the Quadras? Like Quadra. That's who I'm going to say. He's going to be able to get through. The boys, Christian Fernando Jr. are so good on the tree that I think they're going to break through. But we'll see. We never know. Joey Gladstone is really a great one that got taken by Alan. Thank you, Lauren, for that. So what'd you do for your 4th of July, Alan? You just cruised around, or did you light fireworks, or what do you guys do out there in AZ?
There were some fireworks. There were some other stuff. But for me, I just kind of a laid back day. Didn't get to go riding on Saturday. The pretty good storm went through Friday night, and the roads were still wet Saturday. And since I'm a sissy and I'm not going to ride if it's wet, and I don't want to get my bike dirty if it's wet, so we put that off and didn't ride until yesterday. So that was my 4th. I got up early and went for a ride with my buddy Dave and knocked down, 120 miles or something, and then came down and worked on the bike a little bit, and it was a pretty lazy day.
That's good. I went and hung out at the parents' house, like hang with the parents, and had some friends come over, just splashing around in the pool a little bit, and had a good time. So let's set the scene. Like, what do you think we always talk, it's too soon to think about championships because there's a long season and there's so many race wins and all of that. But as soon as you get to the Western Swing, it's all of a sudden, oh, okay, here we are. This is where Jimmy and Beckman broke out the swept-back headers a couple of years ago. This is where we see things happen. In this particular example, we got 2 races after the swing before the U.S. Nationals, Brainerd and Kansas. But I'm feeling like if you don't have your act together by now, you're behind.
I would agree with that. And I think that, Erica still looks like she's the class of the field in the pro stock category. And until somebody else can show that, they can race with her on a regular basis, I still think that, she is the car to beat. Mike Salinas, I think right now you'd have to say it's for real. There were a lot of people first, beginning of the season, it's like, oh, well, yeah, but, the AJ influence and that's da-da-da-da-da. Well, we're 10 races into the season. He's won 4 of them. So, at this point, they have got the thing running well, and I think you can say they're for real. I don't think Brittany's going anywhere. I still keep waiting for Doug to bust out someplace. I mean, the Coletta cars have got to come back to life at some point this year. They're gonna be a bigger factor in the second half than they've been in the first. And in funny car, I still, yes, Ron Capps has made some strides, and yes, Bob Task has made his presence known, and yes, Cruz Pedregon has had some good races. I still think it's basically a 2-horse race. I think Robert and Matt are still the class of the field. And, the fact that only 1 race all year didn't feature at least one of them in the final, I still think that those 2 cars seem to have a leg up on everybody else. But, by the time we leave Seattle, there'll be a little bit clearer picture. Somebody gets hot out here. Let's just say, Tasca goes out and sweeps the swing, or Cruz goes out and sweeps the swing. All of a sudden, that's going to change the dynamic. But somebody's going to have to show me that before I'm going to change my mind.
Closed circuit for Lonnie. No, Lonnie, like way behind. Closed circuit for Lonnie. Had Caps on last week, and I asked him flat out because we talked a lot about Caps comes on. Caps is a friend, and if like when he won 4 wide, he used the show to attack Loans and Tony a little bit for not mentioning his name before the run, and just like a little barb back. And Caps has been vocal about like, hey man, they don't put us in the Height and Hagen category. So I asked him, I was like, hey, man, do you feel like disrespected? And he said, no, I don't feel disrespected at all, but I want to brag on my guys, is what he says. Like, I think these guys have earned to be talked about, and they're the champs, and we're winning races. We're just not getting talked about as much. What do you think's going on there? Do you think there's a legit thing? Do you think we gravitate towards Jimmy and Dickie and Hagen? He's a muscle man, and Robert, John Force Racing, more so than we do a guy like Caps? You think it's just... he has 1 less races. What do you think is going on there, if anything at all?
Well, Ron obviously got a great race car, and, he's got a good team. They won the championship last year. They came out there fighting again this year. But Ron, for whatever reason, his team flies a little below the radar the first part of the season. And then, when they need to come to life in the countdown, that's where it counts and that's where it happens. But if you look back historically, Ron usually isn't mentioned. Even the 2 years he's won the championship, he hasn't really been mentioned in the conversation until we get into the countdown, until we get into the last 4 or 5 races a year. And then sometimes it's almost like, where'd this guy come from? So, yes, they're certainly running well. They've got some number one qualifiers to their credit, and they've had the thing in the winner's circle. They certainly are capable of winning another championship, and everybody over there knows how to get it done. They proved that last year. But I keep coming, Ron, and keep making noise and keep using that for motivation. If I'm him, I'm like the coach that, hey, those guys think they're going to kick our butts. Here, let's put this up on the bulletin board so my guys can read it every day when they come to work. And I'd use that for motivation.
I agree. No, I think that is an interesting discussion. Like, we've got a big 2, but maybe we got a big 3. But, John Force and qualifying, like, it's there's still a lot to be settled. And I bring up that Beckman Western Swing story as a parable, right? Like, that was a year. I don't remember anything that happened prior to that, but I remember everything that happened after that.
Yeah, and when you've got 3 races in 3 weeks, and especially at 3 vastly different racetracks, if you can go out there and shine, then I think that puts you in good stead coming down the wire, because we're going to get out of there. We're going to go to Kansas, typically warm. We're going to go to Brainerd, which could be anything from, a biblical flood to a heat wave. We're going to go to Indy, and then you start getting into, okay, now it's going to cool down. Now we're going to go to some of the faster tracks. And, if you go out and show on the Western Swing that I can run well in any condition, I'm not saying you got to sweep it. I'm just saying go rounds, make noise, have a good car at every race out there on the swing. Then I think you put yourself in good shape coming down as we get into the countdown, because if you've proven then that we can do it no matter what the conditions are, you're going to be ready for whatever it throws at you at the end of the year.
Exactly. And it'll be interesting to see regardless. Jeremy wants to know, who do you think is going to have magic on the mountain? I think it's the usual suspects, right? There are certain people that know how to run up there, and they've had success. And next week we'll go a little more in depth. And Robert is actually going to be on the show next week, we're looking like, and hopefully Mike Salinas as well. We got Chris Thorne tomorrow. But isn't it weird how some people just have magic up there? Like Alan Johnson, for instance.
It is, but it's so different racing up there that if you find something that works and you can keep everybody else from finding out about it, then, you can dominate for a while. Look what Joe Amato and Tim Richards did. They had just the magic combination, back in the late 80s, early 90s. And every time you went to Denver, it was like, okay, who's going to be runner-up? Because you just knew Amato was going to win it unless something really stupid happened. But I also think, look back, I don't remember last year or 2 years before, went to the press conference, and Matt Hagan was at the press conference, and I said, "You like this place?" And he said, "No." He said, "Well, actually, it doesn't like me." He said, "Our goal is to leave here with the same body on the car that we showed up with." And, a couple of years we didn't do that. And then they went out and won the race. So, I think part of it also is if you trip over that magic combination, then that's going to certainly make a difference. Denver's got 4 qualifying sessions, which I think is more critical there than even the 4-wide tracks, simply because there's one time a year when you're going to run with a density altitude over 9,000 feet. And it certainly has been that at Denver a time or two. So having the extra run to learn from for all the teams, I think is a big deal. But who's going to dominate? Ask me 2 weeks from today.
Well, what's funny is Erica referenced in her media center interview about going up there, because we asked a little preview question and everything. And I thought it was cool talking about gearing, right? Like she said, and she used the word rent the gears, which I think that's kind of an interesting topic with all the different combinations and gears and all the gears that they have to have for all these different cars. I thought it's kind of cool. Like, oh, you can rent gears from Liberty. Is that even possible? I would love to know what you know about. But then I can't help but think about Alan and Roy Johnson. Roy Johnson let the cat out of the bag at the Engine Performance Expo earlier this year, that their dominance on the mountain started with a mistake. They got the wrong gears from like, oh no, these are not the right ones, guys. No, well, that's the ones we got. You want them or not? Well, all right, we'll take them. And they turned out to be completely right by a mistake. And they just went with it and they dominated. So just talk a little bit about gearing and pro stock and how vital it is.
Well, you've got less power, so you've got to run more gear. If you normally are running, say, a 510 or a 520, you're going to have a 560 in it up on the mountain. You've got less power, and so you've got to adjust the car to do that. I love when they've done the side-by-side cameras, the side-by-side comparisons of the in-car camera, that you're in high gear almost a full second quicker in Denver, even though the run is longer. But because you've got so much more gear, you're having to shift quicker and that takes the drivers a little getting used to. So the extra qualifying run is going to help that as well. But you've got to look at, if you go up there and the correction factor is 140, that means you're down 40% of your horsepower. Instead of having 1,500 horsepower, you got 900. You got 850. You've got to make huge changes in order to make this thing, in order to get whatever the performance is that you can get out of it. And that's where all the gearing comes in. The Hemi, I think, being a higher RPM engine, had a little bit of an advantage up there, just because there's less air. So the more you get in and out of the engine, the better off you're going to be. And if you're spending higher RPMs, you're going to get more in and out of the engine. And so the Hemi being a higher RPM runner than the Dodge or the GM Wedge was certainly a bit of an advantage as well.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I found it cool to be that, that things still get stumbled upon, right? Like, oh, we're never going to go with that. Larry Morgan told us on at PRI this past year that Ilmore, like, this is what we think you should do. And he's like, that's not going to work. And 10 years later, that's what everybody had. And do you feel that, does that annoy you? He goes, it's very annoying. If I had just gone with it, I could have dominated.
Well, I think, the Ilmore guys are smart enough, and I was fortunate enough to work with them on a couple of projects when I worked with David Nickens. The Ilmore guys are smart enough that if they tell you this is something, you should at least try it. I mean, don't discount it out of hand. Some of the stuff they did with us didn't work. And when we went back to them and said, this doesn't work, they basically told us, well, we were too stupid to help, and that was the end of the conversation. But we gave it a shot, and I really believe, as smart as those guys are, and from an engineering standpoint, if somebody from Ilmore came to me and said, this is something you need to do, I would not dismiss it without trying it.
Very interesting. Yeah, well, Larry came to that conclusion as well, but only after.
Took him a little longer.
It took him a little longer. Ant Dog out there. Ant runs BMX Motorcycle, says, ain't great show. Eric says he feels for your computer life, but hopes it gets better real soon. Lauren wants to know about Austin Prock. What do you think about where that team is right now? Came out of the box, made the final round, have thrown down some big performances, some big speeds, not the consistency they want just yet, but Tobler and Joe Barlam, and they're running their own program. They don't run what Grubnick runs. It's a different deal. They're two independent teams that do their own things. And, sometimes they're shaking their heads like, wow, what's going on over there? But what do you think about Austin Prock, his team, and where he is at this point in the season?
I think they're in a decent place, not a great place. I think, and I've got all the respect in the world for Ron Tobler. I've known him for years and years and years. He has never been, and I don't think ever will be, a guy that goes out and tries to set the track record on every run. He's a guy who's going to send the car down the racetrack. He's a guy who's going to make a clean run. You're going to have to beat me. You're going to have to outrun me. Almost a Dick LaHaye mentality. I'm not going to give runs away. I'm not going to give races away. I am going to build myself a consistent car and feel like over the long haul that will pay dividends. And when you look at what he's done in his career, I think it has. I think, Joe Barlam on the other side of the fence comes, he's got a history with Alan Johnson, working with the Al-Anabi team and working with some of those guys over there. And so he's a little bit more on the aggressive side. But as we've talked about how many times on the show, that's the combination you need. Right? You need one guy who, if you let him go, would probably just run away. And you need another guy that, if you didn't nudge him once in a while, probably wouldn't move at a quick enough pace. And you need those two to find a good chemistry and be able to work together. It seems like the team has got that. They're not running the performance numbers that David Grubnick is. They're not running the performance numbers. Mike Salinas has been running big numbers. But I think if you did a comparison of, percentage of clean runs down the racetrack, I'd be very surprised if they weren't in the top 3 or 4.
Interesting. All right. This one wants to know about, same story, right? Like, which this bugs me but parts availability. Is parts availability going to bite us? When is parts availability going to be the problem? Our championship's going to be determined by parts availability.
No, I don't think that's going to be an issue. Most of the guys that I've talked to are in pretty good shape. There may be some supply chain stuff that comes a little bit later on, but, racers we're a pretty adaptable bunch. And in speaking with some of the big parts suppliers, they saw when some of this started and went, you know what? I need to go get all this inventory. And, if I used to buy 6 months worth of inventory, I'm going to go buy 2 years worth if I can do that, but hoping to be able to ride it out. There's still some issues As far as people, getting people to come in and work and getting people to generate the parts and do this stuff, it's been a problem for a lot of the suppliers, and that's certainly not unique to racing. I don't know what it's like in your neighborhood, but around here, you can't walk past 5 businesses without having 3 of them have a help wanted sign in the window. And
Yep.
I'm talking whether it's a car dealership or whether it's Wendy's. Everybody is looking for help out there. So there may be a little something there. I know the lead time on a lot of parts is backed up some, but I don't believe it's going to be a problem before the end of the year.
Excellent. Yeah, it's one of those deals where you can't have that conversation without like picking the scab of the pandemic. Like all of a sudden you're talking, 1 million people died. Oh, wow. They used to work, and some people aren't going back. And where are the pilots, right? Like, how about all these pilots? Oh, they all retired. Well, where are the rental cars? Oh, the rental car companies. Someone was like, did you know that the rental car companies sold off their fleets of rental cars during the pandemic? They just sold them, and now they can't get the cars back. And so there's no cars. Like, there's a whole bunch of layers to this deal that are going to be, bouncing around in the ether for quite some time. And we're just going to have to deal with it, right? Kind of like the weather. Like, why bother looking at the weather? Because when you get to the track, you're going to have to deal with it regardless. Well, the same, I feel the same. There's nothing we can do about the people that are not able to work or the supply of equipment that we don't have. You got to make do with what you've got.
I think there's some of that, but I also think that most of the big suppliers, like I said, tried to plan far enough ahead, at least from a raw material standpoint, that they would have the stuff. And then it's just a matter of, like I say, a lot of cases, the lead time is a little bit longer. But I haven't heard anybody yet say that's absolutely positively not available. So if that means that, hey, I know I'm going to need 40 pistons, order 80 of them. And then get hopefully far enough ahead that you can coast for a while, and the piston supplier then can catch up on some of his other stuff. But I think everybody's kind of adapted to that by now. You just understand that, things are a little bit further out than they used to be. You need to plan a little bit further ahead than you used to, and you need to make those adjustments.
Ralph is going to see you in Woodburn this weekend, which is cool. Ralph, go up and say hi to Reinhardt. And John is excited about more divisional racing. Very excited about Route 66 coming back. Really miss bracket racing there. Any updates? And so give the update on Route 66 and promote the fact that you're going to be at Woodburn, because we need more people going to our divisional races. Like, those are great races. Why aren't people going there just to hang out?
Well, we do. And they're good for the track, especially a track like Woodburn that doesn't have a national event. So this is a big event for them from a spectator standpoint. Okay, you're not going to see anybody go 300 miles an hour, but you're going to see 280. You're going to see funny cars running 260 and 270, and you're going to see great competition. You're going to see every category of the Lucas Oil Series from Super Street all the way up. And, go out, spend the day, buy a burger, buy a soda, go buy a beer. All of that stuff helps keep the racetrack there, helps keep it alive. And it's very important. It's funny. I had a conversation with Jim Hughes a couple of weeks ago now. Jim, of course, the former world champion Lucas racer that now runs Tucson Dragway, and he's involved with the NPK guys. And he said, taking over the management of the racetrack was such an eye-opening experience, because as a racer, he'd never thought about it from the other side, right? I show up, I unload my stuff, I barbecue my hamburgers, I race my car, I go home.
Right.
And never considered it. And he says now he doesn't go to a race and not go buy a cheeseburger, just because that's part of the equation. He said, instead of stocking up the toter home with everything I need, I go there knowing, you know what? Okay, I'm going to spend $6 or $8 for a cheeseburger. I'm going to spend $3 or $4 for a soda that I could bring in but the racetrack needs that. And as a track operator, he now sees that. And I wish more fans kind of understood that. The number of times over the years, and I know you've heard the same thing, people talk about the racetrack. Oh, that place is a dump. That place is awful. That place is terrible. Oh, they're closing the racetrack. Oh, no, not my beloved racetrack. It's like, you spent the last 5 years boycotting the place and telling anybody who would listen not to go. And now you're upset because they're going out of business. I mean, you have to support. And, around here, if I can do something locally, I'm going to do something locally. If that doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I'm going to at least try to support, the small businessman down the street or across the street, because I'm one of them. If somebody needs something done that I can do, I hope that he would at least come over and say, hey, can you help me with this, instead of, going on wherever you go and order from out of state or do something else. So I try to have the same mentality. But I love the Lucas races. I mean, they're fun. They're a little bit more laid back. There's plenty of time to wander around. The racers almost always have time to chat with the fans, and you don't have the big crush of the crowd that you have at the national event level. I'm 100% behind Route 66. The number of people I've talked to that are going simply because they want to show support for the racetrack. I hope the event's going to be as good as we all think it's going to be. I'm going to be at that one too. I'm going in for the weekend to try to support the race and do what we can for it. And, we'll see what happens. If we can convince them being the owners of the racetrack, that if you'll open the gates, this is a viable money-making entity. You can also do a lot of good in the community. It really surprises me that more racetracks don't take the Bandamere approach. Go get involved in your community. The Race to Read program that Tammy spearheaded up there, where they will give away 1,500 tickets to middle school kids and even younger if they read books. You get involved with the program, you get basically a bingo card, you read the books, you check them off, you do your stuff, you get a ticket to come out to their Night Under Fire or their 4th of July weekend or something to bring kids out to the racetrack. But they've ingrained themselves so strongly in the community that if you remember, whatever it was now, 10 years ago or 12 years ago, they were talking about moving the racetrack and the community was up in arms. We don't want you guys to leave. It's like, well, we're just going to the other side of town. It's like, no, we don't want you to leave. We want you to stay here. But there are so many things like that local racetracks could do. When street racing was becoming such a big pandemic down here in Southern Arizona, Jim Hughes went to the street racers, reached out to them on Facebook, set up meetings, and said, what do we got to do, guys? You don't want to get arrested. You don't want to get hassled. You don't want to get your cars wrecked. What's it going to take to get you guys to come to the racetrack? And I mean, he literally told them, if what it's going to take is for me to just leave the gate unlocked so you guys can sneak in here and race, fine. Just don't do it on the racetrack. And they now have a Beyond 1320 program that's huge because the street racers, they don't want concrete. They want asphalt. They don't want spray on it. They just want somebody to sweep it off with a broom and get the hell out of the way so we can do a flag drop and race. And that's what the racetrack offers them. The local law enforcement guys are thrilled with it. They've been on the news a number of times down here about being a community partner, about doing something to help the community that you're part of. And there are so many racetracks that could do programs like that. I think Chicago, you look at the number of street racers that have come out of Chicago over the years, right? I mean, even, the TV shows, they've got a Chicago group. And if you could convince them, hey guys, we don't care. You want scoreboards off? Fine. You want to race on unprepped asphalt? Fine. You want to do fine. We don't, just come do it out here. Come do it out here. You've got safety things in place. They'll have an ambulance on site. You'll have stuff. So if there's an incident, you'll have what you need there. And if you want to bring your TV crews out there and film it and pretend you broke in and snuck in at 2:00 in the morning and, oh my God, I hope the cop, I don't care. Just do it. And I don't understand why more racetracks don't reach out and try to get involved with programs like that. It's good for everybody.
Right. Well, it is good for everybody, but that's the thing. It's like, why doesn't every restaurant give good customer service? It's not hard to do it. Right. And it's obviously proven because people want to run their business the way they want to run their business, Alan. And just because this person's all involved in their community and super successful doesn't mean I can't not be involved in my community and also be like, people have weird attitudes. That's all. And we saw it here in my community, where Palm Beach International Raceway, that deal, just as a quick update for everybody, the sale to Portman has not gone through and they have withdrawn their bid. And that's it. It's not going through. It was stopped. But the owners of the track say, we're not opening it as a racetrack ever again. It's not ever going to be a racetrack ever again. We are going to sell it to warehouse space, to somebody's going to buy it. And oh, by the way, thank you all to those who stopped the sale because now it's worth more money than it was 8 months ago. So you made us some money. Ha ha ha. And, that's it. And those, Atlantic Acres Farms Motorsports Park is going to be 2 years away. And so we're kind of in a bad spot. But the track management, good, bad, it matters a lot. Whether you've got someone that realizes you have to connect, you have to be a community center. And if you're not, then you're just a place. And if you are, people are going to be attached to you. It doesn't seem that complex, Alan. And yet some people just don't get it.
Well, I think the two different stories there. You know, the West Palm thing, and I read some of the stuff on the internet, but I don't know the numbers. I've had a conversation with people before. You know, there's nobody that's more entrenched and involved in drag racing than I am. I've been making my living doing it for more than 3 decades now. But if I own a racetrack and my racetrack is worth, let's say I generate $1,000 a year, just a round number.
Yep.
And I'm making a nice living generating $1,000 a year, and some guy comes in and says, "Hey, I'll buy your racetrack for $5,000." No, I mean, in 5 years, I will have made $5,000 and I'll still have the racetrack. And I like racing. I'm part of my community. I'm not doing it. If the same guy then comes in and says, "Hey, I'll give you $400,000 for your racetrack," I go, you know, for $400,000, I can buy a boat and go sail around the world and do that. And I'm never going to make $400,000 with my racetrack. Okay, now I'm going to sell. I think that's a different thing. But I think when you have a racetrack and you're not utilizing it, my personal feeling is that that's a mistake. And there are certainly different, and I've seen it just in the tracks that I go to. You know, you talk to people like Chris Blair, like Jeff Foster, same school, right? I've got a racetrack. If I can open the gates and make $10 a day, opening the gates, at the end of the month, I've made $300, right? And again, whatever the number is, but at the end of the month, I've made $300. I've kept my staff working, I've kept everybody in practice. I'm generating income, right? It's paying to keep the light bill on, and I've just got cash flow for my company because I'm utilizing my racetrack. Now, the other side of it is I know people that promote racetracks or run racetracks, and their philosophy is, well, if I'm not going to make $50,000, I'm not turning the lights on. And it's like, well, you know, if you ran a bracket program, well, what am I going to make with a bracket program? Well, you know, you're going to make 15 or $20. Yeah, it's not worth it. Why not? I mean, wouldn't you rather make $20 than make nothing? But the mentality of, I own a big space, I'm only going to use it for big events. And there are some guys that do that and do it very successfully. So I'm not saying they're wrong. It's just kind of a different mindset. If I was in charge of a racetrack, I would first and foremost, I would try to be a good neighbor. And like I said, get involved with the community, do things. I would, you know, whatever I can do to get people to come out and have events. You know, you don't have just a racetrack. You have basically a property that can be rented, right? Somebody wants to do an expo. Somebody wants to do whatever.
Photo
you know,
shoot.
I need a big, I need a big space to do my remote control car racing. I've got a big space. Let's work something out. Come on out here and let's do it. And the other thing I think for a lot of racetracks is trying to figure out how to generate income without the drag strip. And if you can do it during the week, that's even bigger, because, you know, you can certainly have, you know, your Friday night runs or your Saturday night brackets or your Sunday afternoon stuff or whatever. But can you find something to do on Tuesday that will generate income, that will put your track to use? You know, whether you use it as a concert, you know, the comedy shows that they're doing at Bristol, I think is brilliant, right? We've got a stadium style atmosphere. We've got big grandstand seats. Why not set up a stage and invite some big name comics in here and have a comedy night? And they're doing it on Tuesday and Wednesday, you know, using your racetrack to generate income other than things that are racing and other than weekends, which most of racing takes place. And you got to, you know, I think you've got to be a little bit of a free thinker and go out and try some of that stuff. Some of it obviously is going to work. Some of it's not. But, you know, why not try it? If you're just sitting there dormant, why not try it?
Why not try it? Why not try all kinds of different things, of course, to keep the track alive? And that's the deal. We've got a community of 4 million people down here. Our car culture is unrivaled, except maybe by, you know, California. But really, we have so many less just people, but our car population is still through the roof. We got great roads. The fact that we don't have a track is just terrible. George wants to know, or this might be Shannon, what is the deal with the 2 runs on Friday and not? And I understand it. It's about staying ahead of that parts availability, right? Like, we don't want to put the teams back to 4 qualifying sessions for every event just yet. It's crawl, walk, run. We were just in a pandemic. We only had 2 qualifying sessions, and now we're not that far out of it. We're not going to just go back to 4 sessions and make everybody go full throttle when we're got people that are worried about parts availability just 3 questions ago.
Well, I think the parts availability is certainly part of it, but I think another part of it is just the money saving for the teams. If you look at, what it costs to run one of the cars, and they are not inexpensive. Depending on who you ask, the number varies anywhere from $4,000 to $15,000 to run down the racetrack. But by only having the one run Friday evening or Friday late afternoon, you also have a lot of your key personnel. Take Torrence's for example. They don't even fly in until Friday afternoon.
Yep.
Okay. Alan Johnson doesn't fly in until Friday. Connie and Doug don't fly in until Friday. So they have gotten an extra day or half a day that they can spend working in the business that is paying for a big part of their hobby. That's something. They are saving an extra hotel night for everybody that's flying in. And if it's 6 people, that might be 6 hotel nights. 6 hotel nights times 20 races is a pretty substantial chunk of money. You're saving a day of rental car. And you just talked about, how rental cars, some places they're outrageously priced simply because of supply and demand. So you're saving an extra day because you don't have to fly in on Thursday and pick up the car. You fly in on Friday. And you add all that up at the end of the year, and it saves the teams a substantial amount of money. The plan was always to go back to 4 runs, at least at most races, maybe not all, but at least at most races. But I think what you just said is exactly right. Walk, crawl, run, or crawl, walk, run. You don't go, okay, pandemic's over, everything's back to normal. Let's go back to normal, because things aren't back to normal. Things are getting back to normal, but we ain't there yet.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And all you have to do is look at the airlines, right? They don't have pilots. They're like, we would love pilots. We just, a lot of them retired. A lot of them are gone. That's it. We don't have them. We got to get back going. But all right, guys, that's it about pandemic related parts, availability, all that stuff. The moral out of that is Reinhardt's going to be at Woodburn. We got a lot of WFO radio listeners up there. That's number 1. Number 2, when you go back to Route 66, bring signs. Nothing tells track owners that the fans are really passionate than fans with signs. Bring cool signs.
Okay. Just bring yourself.
There you
Just
go.
bring yourself. If we can show the people that are making the decisions about what to do with that racetrack that if they would open it, it would be a viable revenue generating process for them. And I don't care what they do with the track across the street. I don't care what they do with their circle track. And I'm not against any of them. I want the drag strip. And if they'll give us a chance, I think we can show them that is a viable revenue generating piece of property. And all they have to really do is open the gates and get somebody in there that understands what it takes to make the place work.
Exactly. All right. Let's hope. It's all on your back, Reinhardt. You got to make this one happen. You got to make it happen for everybody.
I can tell you this. Will and I had a really long discussion in Norwalk about just some, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And Loans was in there on Thursday, and we spent the time, just 3 of us kicking around, what if we did this? It's like, yeah, that might work, or that might not be a great idea. And the 3 of us have been around racing a lot and seen a lot of stuff, but we are going to do some fun stuff for the competitors. We're going to do some, not normal stuff at division races, just to try to make it more fun, try to make it more interesting, try to do, I'm a big believer that if the competitors are having a good time, that pays huge dividends as well. Because a guy that goes on Facebook and says, hey, I want a cupcake, beats the hell out of a guy who goes on Facebook and says, oh, they made me park in the mud and everything sucked and the whole weekend was awful. So why not do some stuff just to try to generate some fun, just try to generate some interest and make it fun for the racers? Because that's another something that it seems like we've sometimes veered away from a little bit. And the focus of business is like, a lot of guys are doing this because it's fun, right? It's their vacation, and they want to come out and have fun. So let's see what we can do to keep it fun.
Oh, exactly. Keep it fun. And I think that's where Peter and Kyle really showed the way with their $1 million bracket races, is that, yeah, you could win a lot of money, but there was something happening at every second of the race, right? Like you would win this or a special bonus race or dialing for dollars, or just some like the worst loser of the round gets something actually really cool. Like, wow, I really stunk and I won something because I stunk better than anybody else. I was
actually, it's the best loser of the round, I think. But anyway,
whatever. It's something, a little added bonus, and they do a great job. We're trying to do that as much as to do whatever is needed to save the sport. I don't want it to be that. So somebody asked who's going to be at the Columbus now that Unk has passed away. Do you know who's going to be? Yeah, here's one. Since Alan is going to be in Denver and we lost Unk, do we know who's going to be on the mic at the JAG Speedweek Sports Nationals in Columbus next week? Any idea, Alan?
I do not know. I don't know. I don't know. I know that Will has...
I know. Here's the answer. It's Fabian Brown.
Oh, okay. Good. Awesome.
Thanks, Fabian. Way to jump on that real quick.
There you go. Well, then you're in good hands. If Fabian's going to be the guy in the mic, you're in good hands.
And Fabian will be joining us once again in Brainerd. He's going to be out there in the zoo. Poor kid. Oh, well. All right, let's get back on the Camping World Series. You were talking about Joey Gladstone. We spoke with Angel a little bit last week. She seemed to be on a mission, Alan. Like maybe she had a breakthrough. It's kind of weird to think about someone with 46 wins having a breakthrough, but like believing in herself seemed to be a bit of a challenge. She told a story about like, I just didn't think, and now I do. And she's got something going on. Talk a little bit about that. How could one of the greatest of all time also at the same time have self-doubt?
I think everybody has some self-doubt, no matter what position you're in. I think if Tom Brady ever said, he never once walked out on the field and went, wow, I think that he's lying. I think that everybody has that. And I think it tends to feed on itself like anything else. If you get in the mindset of, can I still do this? Can I still do this? Can I still do this? You make a mistake. Oh, geez, I made a mistake. And now you're like, well, geez, can I still do this? And it ends up kind of building. Once you break through that, if you can flip your mental attitude to, okay, now I don't just feel like I can do it. I don't just know that I proved I can do it. And hopefully that'll send her, on a mental uptick because I love Angel to death. I was there the first time she went down to racetrack and national event in 1996 at Denver. I was there when she won her first race, and I've been there for all 46 of them. But everybody that watches her, whether you are a close friend or whether you just see her on TV, you know that she wears her emotions on her sleeve. If she's happy, she is jumping up and down. If she's not, she's crying, she's upset. That's just her. So when she's in a good place mentally, then that's when she goes on a tear. And when she's questioning or doubting, that's when she seems to struggle a little bit. So if this win and being, solid on the tree and doing what she needed to do and getting it covered, if that's what it took to get her to snap out of that funk and get her mind back where it needs to be, then can look out, because when she's feeling confident and she's riding confident, she's as good as anybody ever got on a motorcycle.
That is great stuff. Yeah, now she's got a red velvet cake. Her mom's red velvet cake is back too. So we're all good. Alan, great job as usual. Any final thoughts you want to throw out there to the WFO universe before you head to Woodburn this week?
No, I just want to invite everybody to come out. It's actually a double divisional, so we're going to be racing. They'll be testing tuning tomorrow. We will start racing on Thursday. We'll have one race Thursday, Friday, and one race on Saturday and Sunday. So if you can take 4 days and come on out, the weather up in Woodburn this time of year is usually pretty friendly. I haven't looked because I don't look, but usually it's pretty kind to us up there. But great racetrack, great family that runs it, and if you come out, I promise you, you'll have a good time. So come out and join us and see who wins. There's going to be at least one surprise out of town visitor that shows up this weekend. When people are walking through the pits, they're going to be going, "What are they doing here?" But and I'll leave it at that. You have to come out to figure it out.
All right. I like it. A bit of a tease. Great job, Alan. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Yeah. And if anybody knows anything about Primo primary belt drives, like I got on my chopper back here, tell me why it's whining. I'm going to just start taking it apart until I find it.
There you go. At NHRA Reinhardt on Twitter.
Announcer at NHRA.com or NHRA Reinhardt on Twitter.
I like it. Well, keep us updated with the tweets, Alan. Great job. Have fun this weekend. We'll talk soon.
All right, Joe. Take care.
There he goes. The voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, joins us each week right here on WFO Radio. Subscribe, click the bell. Lonnie is out there telling everybody to do likes and stuff in the comments section on YouTube. There's the live comments and then the live chat that goes on, and then the actual comment section. Lonnie was like, you got to do more in the comment section. So we'll throw a question or two out there. For the comment section on YouTube, what is the best way for a local racetrack to become a part of the community? Like, that is something that years ago, the racetrack, it was like going across the tracks. It's like a bad spot, right? You don't want your kids hanging out at the racetrack. Now in our modern time, I think that You want your kids hanging out at the racetrack because that's where people with good businesses are. That's where people who are smart and the engineers are hanging out. That's where people who, it's an expensive hobby, right? Like, why would you not want your kid to be at the racetrack hanging out? So what is the best way for a racetrack to become part of the community? Put your comment in the comment section on YouTube down on the bottom, and let's see what people have to say about that. And then we'll get to the final comments on the comment section live. But I want to tell you about the people who make it possible for me to go WFO, like our Patreons. Troy is one of our Patreons. He's going to have the big money minute tonight. I'm struggling talking, right? After 4th of July and all the hanging out and everything I was doing, I'm struggling to speak. I'm so happy about it. But you can join the Patreons, patreon.com/WFO radio, and check it out. You can become one of the Patreons. Then there's Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. This is one where, we want people to get out of the grandstands and become race car drivers and drive cars and realize that it's something you can do. Maybe they will become a bracket racer. How can we create a program that'll do that? Frank's already done it. You make 1 half track and 2 full track passes. You're driving a rear engine dragster, detuned though, so that anybody can handle it. He supplies everything. You supply nothing, just yourself. It's a great deal. FrankHawley.com. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Brian Massengill and the fam down there. I wish we could get some more machinists. Yeah, let's start a school. And the rest is history. They're approved to train veterans under the GI Bill. They've got engine block, cylinder head programs, motorsport EFI. They're approved to train veterans under the GI Bill. Go to samtech.edu. If you're looking for a career, if you want to get involved in motorsports, they can place you with one of the many teams and relationships that they have, samtech.edu. And then there's Marvin Rodak. I know you guys have been watching me drink my Rodaks all morning long. Oh, yeah. 817-924-6821. That's Marvin Rodak's coffeeandgrills.com. If you're down there in the Fort Worth, Texas area, you can go into the showroom. They've got grills and tools and tips and information. And Marvin's recipes up there on the website. Great stuff. RODKAS, right? RODAKS. I think I said it wrong. RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com. Call Marvin. Tell him you heard it on WFO Radio, and you'll be ready to rock and roll. These are the people that make it possible, along with Phillips-Connect.com, Total Seal Piston Rings, VP Racing Fuels, and, of course, FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters. And we'll have a full big money bracket minute on the Ignition podcast. And one of our Patreons, Troy, is building his own big money bracket car. Like, that's what he's doing. He's seeing all these people. It's like poker in the 90s. What? People are getting paid a lot of money to do this? I'm going to do it. See if I can do it. And it's no different. And FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters are helping people do exactly that. Like, look at Spencer Massey's car right here. That's something that everybody can aspire to. Super cool, of course. All right, let's see what you got to say out there. I've put the link to the WFO app in the chat section a couple of times. I put the link to our swag shop. If you want WFO logo t-shirt or long sleeve t-shirt or something, it's all up there. All right, let's see what Jim says. Local service club meetings, Lions Club, Rotary, Kiwanis, things they did right. You guys can use our space. I don't know what has happened in the world. Like, we're not giving away anything ever, no matter what. Okay. The day that you need something, though, we're never going to need assistance from anybody outside of these walls, no matter what, because we're that great. Okay. But it's really good to have a great relationship with people just in case you do. I don't know. Maybe it's a thing from being in South Florida where around every corner, there's the potential for a big hurricane where all of a sudden everybody is like helping each other. Otherwise, there's problems. A wedding at the starting line would be a memorable occasion. Yeah, it would be. Racetracks, so much potential. Concerts and what's happening with Palm Beach. It's very, very sad. I think about Miami Hollywood Speedway, where this tree is from back there. That a hurricane is really the root behind losing that. When Hurricane Andrew came through in 92, right? Like they needed to build 1 million houses immediately, and they just sold all that land and that track was on it. Alan kind of looked like Wilson from Home Improvement. His nice, listen, and that's why the Reinhart conversation went a little short today, guys. Like, that's the reason. Like, the look. People don't watch and listen to WFO like the podcast listeners, which are our vast majority, represent audio only. All you podcast people out there, thank you so much for being with the show for so long. Did you know, video stream people, that there are WFO podcast listeners that are weeks behind listening to the audio, going back on the feed, hitting old stuff, digging around in interviews, finding good things, audio only, because they drive for a living. They can't be watching a screen. They work in a machine shop. They work in a mill. They listen. There's something to be said for listening only. So those guys their show was perfect. Those of you who had the visual experience, less than perfect. Seeing Alan Reinhardt's nose just peeking out over the top of his keyboard. But I don't care at that point. We got it in and we got it on, and that's what matters. Always enjoy Reinhardt's appearances, no matter what, says Lonnie. Jim, city council meeting, school board, PTA. All right, now we're getting a little too much with all the, like local government stuff. I definitely like it, but you want them on your side. You don't want them there every day. That's a different story. I try to help, then I ask lots of questions. Lonnie, some of your questions, though, my man. You're like living in 5 years ago. You know which one I mean. I'm just kidding. It's true. AJ says, great show. AJ just turned 15. More power. Right. My best friend was the pull car for Bill Maverick Golden's Little Red Wagon. And he got married, his wife, on the starting line at a divisional event years ago. Way to go. That's kind of cool. Not hating on Alan, just had to call it out. Kudos to AR for working through. Exactly. This man did not launch his computer out the window. Nikki says, some tracks need to work with the media, TV, radio, more, and let everyone know what is going on in their track to get more people in the seats. Yeah. So my opinion, based on my own life experiences, and I am the type of person who asks a lot of questions too, and I pay a bunch of attention. Then do I do a lot with it? No, I just kind of sit on it and I enjoy thinking about what's going on. But my experience is that nobody does the appropriate amount of promotion and outreach about their product. Even WFO, I would love to have a huge budget to spend on Facebook ads and Google ads to every drag racing fan out there who's going to like the show, right? But we're not there yet. That's not where we are, like mass marketing. That's not where we are. And also at the same time, I think it works better coming from you guys. So what do? We, every once in a while, tell the audience, we try to do a really good show as often as is possible, bring you guys inside and behind the sport of drag racing in a way that few others can do, right? The great stuff that Angel told us last week, the great things that Caps told us last week, breaking the news about Night Under Fire. If you watch and listen to WFO Radio, you're hearing about a lot of stuff long before the regular public does. You might not hear the exact thing told you in the news format, but it's coming. And that's by design. It's almost an underground thing. It's almost a behind the scenes thing. And the second we go mass marketing, maybe that ruins it, which is a fitting thing since we don't have the budget for mass marketing like that. What's better is when the audience goes out there and talks to their friends. They know, who your friends are that like the idea of drag racing and might listen to a podcast and might want to hear from Reinhart and Ron Caps and me when I'm doing fun stuff. And I know how many of you are out there already, and you can all tell a friend or two. But at the same time, drag strip is a little different. Who's going to race? You got to attract people like Fastlane Friday at Homestead Miami Speedway this past week. I was out there. I don't know if you saw my photos. WFO Joe on Instagram and Twitter. I always post some shots, and I get really aggressive posting shots of regular challengers. You see me out at the NHRA, and there's Factory Showdown Challenger. Mark Powick owns a car, runs 780s, 770s. He's a world record holder, 760s. And I'm posting a picture of some kid's Dodge Challenger going down pit road at Homestead Miami Speedway. Well, why? One is obviously a $250,000 race car, and the other is a Challenger that some kid bought. And they're both getting the same attention from me. Why? The answer is, man, I want that kid to feel like Mark Powick. Wow, man. Like, look at that. I'm doing a burnout and I got my picture. Some guy tweeted it out. What does he care? Because that's how people fall in love with the sport. John Force, the roar of the crowd. Who's the next John Force out there? Like, if you don't have a track photographer, like a guy who comes out, who's a local business, like Steve Brenwald used to do it at Gainesville Raceway for a while. You got to have a track photographer who goes around and takes pictures of and sends them out. Well, anybody can do that now. Yeah, but they won't. Hey, man, we took some pictures of you. Good professional photos. The drag thing that Loans and NHRA are doing. Okay. Competent track announcers. How many are there? How available are they? I don't know. But I can tell you that I always consider myself a fairly competent track announcer, and now the NHRA agrees, and I get to have a job still, so someone must agree. But when I was racing, like, how many people were able to tell my story of what I did and what I do and how much I love it and where the car came from and all that? No, it was rare. Every racer should have that for them. Whose responsibility is it? It's the track's. The track has got to do that. And there's a lot of people who they put in the bare minimum. And I'm not talking about track operators. I'm talking about everybody. The bare minimum to get by. That's enough. That's what we're going to do. The bare minimum. The track is open. We've got some people coming in. But really, you could be doing so much more. Yeah. And that's their right. It's their right as an American to do the bare minimum if they choose. And still get by. Like, where was I the other day? Sandwich shop. Got there at 3:10. They closed at 3. It was like, I drove up 40 minutes. I'm in an area that I'm not normally at. Last time I was here was 7 years ago. I really would like the sandwich. Yeah, we closed 10 minutes ago. Bye. Now, in another world, maybe they would have said, well, we could do this or we could do that, or we had something left, or, whatever. They don't need that. They're making so much money. They don't need that. There's the other side of it too. Making so much money that they don't need you. There's that too. We got all kinds of stuff going on in the world of drag racing. But I think general customer service is always a great thing. You can't go wrong. I've never heard someone say the customer service in that place was so good that I never went back there again. Never seen that. Let's see what the final comments are before we get out of here. And remember, tomorrow is pre-recorded, guys, but it's Chris Thorne. You've all been asking for Chris Thorne. You want to hear something crazy about Chris Thorne? Chris Thorne was on the first and second episode of the TV show Pinks. First of all, the guy's a little shy, and so I've been kind of like going around and hanging out with him and talking to him, and he's getting to finals and winning 3 or 4 races. So now we're good. So I was like, man, send me something so I can know like where you came from. Sends me the first episode of first 2 episodes of Pinks with Rich Christensen, the TV show that I believe started this whole Street Outlaws thing. If you really want to know like drag racing on TV, Pinks is where it all really came back. And that was done at Orlando Speed World. And I think he said episodes 1 and 2 are Chris Thorne. He's in a Camaro. He races a guy in a Nova. I don't want to tell you what happens. But we talk about it. And now he's in Fuel Tech Pro Mod, and he's winning 75% of the races we've had. I love when the math is easy. So stick around. Tomorrow we'll be doing that. Thursday, I think we'll be off, but that will be pre-recorded because I'm handling some stuff here around town. Enjoy your rest days, Joe. Oh, yeah, I already told you a rest days. I always got a lot of hard work I got to do around here, guys. No, I'm going to detach. There are a lot of other drag racing shows, but I listen to you because you are good. Thank you, Mike. I like to think so. I mentioned Hank Goldberg at the start of the show. You might see that news. You might not. Hank worked for ESPN for many years. But when I got my first radio job, Hank was the afternoon drive guy from 3 to 7 p.m. And when I first walked into the radio station, like Hank was on the air. And I was the bridge from the morning guy to Hank. So every day when I turned over the console of the radio, I was running as a board op, pressing buttons and doing faders and all that stuff. In the morning, we had the morning show guys. They would finish. That was Joe Rose and Jeff DeForest. You don't know those names. Maybe Joe Rose because he caught Dan Marino's first touchdown pass. Was a Miami Dolphins tight end. Then we had the midday, right? Fabulous Sports Babe for a while. I don't know how many talk radio people. I ran the board for Fabulous Sports Babe. And then at 12 noon, we had the midday guys. John Boog Shambi, right? Which John Shambi is one of the ace play-by-play guys on ESPN baseball. I think he floats around and does multiple networks now. John Shambi, his first talk show. Chris Moore, hockey play-by-play guys. And we had an entertaining show, and then we would turn it over to Hank Goldberg and his guys. And we'll talk a lot about more about this on Ignition tonight, because the Ignition podcast has really gotten a little like talk radio, South Florida talk radio, South Florida media market, South Florida sports kind of angle to it, right? And it was during that period where, Stu Gatz from Le Batard's show came around and was an intern and trained, did all that process. And then Stu Gatz was Hank Goldberg's producer for a while, which is kind of an interesting storyline. So I imagine Le Batard and Stu Gatz are probably talking a lot about Hank. But South Florida, there's been a lot of ties through our little community here. And I got out of that because I wanted to control, I loved racing and I wanted to control the own destiny and not being part of the, the hired fired cycle of talk radio. And it's not so much getting fired that was the problem. It was having to move, all the moving. Like, oh, you're going to go to Kansas, you're going to go to Texas, you're going to go here. I didn't want to do that. I want to stay in South Florida. So this job works real well for me. Thank you. Please buy our stuff or patronize our sponsors, guys. But we'll be talking a little bit about Hammer and Hank on Ignition later on. Because the guy was a character. Old school. Dad was a sports columnist for the Newark Star Ledger. And he grew up in the sports biz. He got trained by Jimmy the Greek. Like, he wrote Jimmy the Greek's column. And so some of the stories we would hear from Hank. And then years later, I actually got to co-host a sports talk show with him, which I was totally unqualified because my sports knowledge, while better than the average civilian, is not great compared to the sports nerds in the world. I always worked with the entertainment shows on the network. But we'll do that on Ignition. Then we'll have Chris Thorne tomorrow. And then it'll be like, there it is, the Stu Gatz Army. This guy, Troy, listens to the show. He's one of our Patreons, and he revealed that he listens to Le Batard. And man, Stu Gatz, of course. But it's funny. That's, the connections that you don't know. Peeps. Oh, Derek's bringing us down. Peeps, go to a dermatologist for a checkup. Skin cancer. Oh, okay. Listen, I'm taking this serious. Skin cancer ain't no joke. Went for a checkup after Caps posted about it. Glad I caught some stuff already. Already had surgery, got healing stuff. You know what? You're absolutely right. I should go too, because I'm out there baking on the starting line all day. I'm never wearing a hat. I should be wearing a hat, but I'm not wearing a hat. Good note, Derek. Thank you. Great advice. And Jeff, he's been there. Great advice. Fabian, let's see what Fabian's. See you in Brainerd. Hope to give Unc a good show in Columbus. Rest in peace, and Goldberg. Yes, Fabian. Good luck. Have fun out there, Fabian. We'll see you in a few weeks. Enjoy your rest days, Joe. You've earned them. That one I already heard that one already. There's a lot of other drag racing shows. Okay, that's it. That deal that Lone started up to help announcers get better is really cool. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Or it's Lone's trying to replace all the people around him with acolytes. Listen, we got to just consider it the possibility, right? Like maybe Lone's has got some sort of thing, an evil plot. He's going to try to replace all the announcers with his own minions. It's worth considering. Attention in the pits is great. Yes. There's an attention in the pits up there. I mentioned at the start of the show, I want to let you guys know about it, since, again, you're the ones who share and retweet. The Godzilla car, 55 Chevy, Nick and Joanne Iarussi. When I was a kid at the Gator Nationals in 1982, first of all, everybody I know loves Godzilla. And this 55 Chevrolet with an altered wheelbase would come up, and my dad would make a big deal, Nick and Joanne Iarussi, probably because they were Italian. But the 55 Chevrolet with Godzilla was cool too. And I always was in love with the car. I always thought it was cool. And now that we do this, and he came to the 5-day bracket race and was bracket racing the thing. And everywhere I would go, I would see this car. And I love Godzilla too. And so we're in Ohio, and we reached out to Nick, and like, how far are you from the track? And he says he's, not far. So we went and we sought out the Godzilla car. Now, if you don't follow NHRA drag racing for the last, from 30 years ago, you probably don't know the car. This is a classic, iconic, gasser style car that was a gas supercharged at one time and ended up super gas car. Has been involved in NHRA racing. So he raced his first U.S. Nationals with the car in 1963. And has been all involved in NHRA racing in various forms since then and up until recently. So we went and tracked down the car in a barn, getting out of our comfort zone a little bit, doing something a little different, just to try to break the mold. Hopefully you will share that, not just watch it. Like that thing on TikTok, why my friends say, why I'm not famous yet. It's because you ain't shared my stuff. What's Blake say? Elta MD UV Clear Bond Broad Spectrum SPF 46 is pretty good. Okay, Blake, I dig that. I try to use that 70. The Neutrogena. Except it turns my face white, and then people like white, like I'm a zombie. SPF 100, no matter what. Some people say that it doesn't work. You could have SPF 1 million, and it only goes up to 70. Did I get everybody's comments in? I had people tell me that they didn't want any fans because they didn't want to have to hire security. Yeah. Radio stations have community calendars. They do. Budget, not always a factor. Create relationships with people at the station, sports team, especially now with Twitter. Like, why aren't we reaching out? Derek, no joke. I love my iPhone 13 camera. I love it. Oh my gosh. Some of the photos I'm taking. Like, it's insane how good they are. Word of mouth sells everything. Well, and that's it. I like that one. Thank you for that. WFO Radio, podcast, live stream, however you're checking it out. Thanks to Reinhardt. Thanks to everyone. Remember, you can get some swag as well. Join the Patreons. Tomorrow, Chris Thorne, pre-recorded. We'll have a Hidden Horsepower at the end of the week as well. All right, guys, take care. Be good. Happy 4th of July. And don't forget, we're doing Ignition tonight. Enjoy it tomorrow.